So thanks guys for all being on this. I want to start with saying like I'm so proud of you for hitting 2,000 by month end. Obviously, that's always our goal. I always say 3,000 by month end, but I mean 2,000 and up is amazing. We've never done a coaching call for the 2K Club, so I thought this was really cool. And who better to have the coaching call with than the amazing, legendary like Leslie Niza? Like she is incredible. She's a powerhouse. Leslie and I met in college back at Eastern Michigan University, and she was our sorority president, and she was like my onboarding like mama. And she was incredible then. And I mean, this business, like she is incredible. If you guys don't know her story, she'll share her story with you, but she is like she's just hit every milestone so fast. And I am so excited to have her give you her tips and just tell you, what she did and kind of what maybe her secret sauce is, because whenever Leslie trains, like I am just like jaws on the floor. She's amazing. And I just scoop up all that knowledge that I can. So I'm excited to share her with you guys. So congrats again. And I'll just pass it over to Les.
Well, thank you. I mean, geez, that's quite the welcome. I hope I can live up to that welcome. So, and certainly, I'm honored to be able to, spend some time with you guys here tonight and share some of my tips. But truly, you guys have an incredible leader yourself. I'm a little jealous that she's not mine, but I totally understand where that came from, because Sarah and Megan and I all went to college together, and Megan is Sarah's little in our sorority, little sister. So they have a very special bond. But it's funny because I joined Sarah 4 months after she started it. And Megan, how many months were you after that? Like a couple of years, right?
A year and a half after Sarah joined.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, she waited for a year and a half, and she's caught up. I mean, look at her; she's a beast. So, you guys are so lucky to have her, as your upline and your mentor. And I'm just gonna quickly share with you my story, kind of give you an insight of like where I was, what I did, how many legs I had at that time. We're gonna talk a lot about recruiting tonight. Then I'm going to open it up to you guys and give you guys a chance to answer some questions. So hopefully that's helpful. So for those of you that do not know me, I am a special education teacher by trade here in Michigan. I taught in Utica schools for 10 years. And I'm married to my husband, Patrick, who's also a special education teacher. We taught children with cognitive impairments. That's how we met. And we had our first son in February of 2012. And that was the time when obviously motherhood had changed my whole life. And I actually was battling some postpartum anxiety. I was really struggling with going back to work because, my husband and I were equal partners in our financial income, and we needed two incomes. It wasn't that I could just hang up the towel, and we would not financially make it. And so we had very strong goals for our retirement. We had, we lived a comfortable life. I wouldn't ever say that we were struggling, but we lived a life on 2 teacher salaries. It was pretty bland. I'll say it that we made great money in Utica, but, it's a teacher salary. Like there's just nothing more to say about that. But anyway, I was really struggling with the work-life balance. I had gone back to work, and I'm very candid about the fact that I feel like I was a very bad working mom. I was the mom. I was always driving the Hot Mess Express. I was the girl that was literally the bell had rang and my kids were in their seats, and it was like I was 5 minutes late for class because I was trying to do this daycare drop off that I could not seem to like get together. Even though I had everything planned the night before, I felt like I was working all weekend to try and make the week go as smoothly as possible, and nothing was happening. And, I very quickly realized that I was unhappy. And not only was I unhappy, but this unhappiness was spilling over into my personal life. It was spilling into my career. It was spilling into, a lot of areas of my job, of my life. And it wasn't affecting my marriage, but I'm sure I wasn't a pleasant person to be around, but I didn't want it to either. And so that's really the point that I realized that something had to change. And so I had reached out to Sarah in June, which is like right when she had enrolled. And I learned a little bit more about it. And I was like, sales, skincare, no thanks. And so I had ignored her. She tried to do play dates and like literally bring the big business launch kit into my house and like just casually drop it off at a play date. And I was like, no. And so I had gone back to work that following year, and I was still struggling, having the same struggles. And at the same time, my career was starting to change. My husband and I were renegotiating a contract. We were facing a $90,000 pay cut collaboratively. And I had a really tough caseload and some legal issues going on that I was kind of strung into because I was the teacher with a student, and it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And so actually the straw that broke the camel's back was when I had voiced it was October, I had voiced my professional opinion to my principal, who I say has like little man syndrome. And he looked at me and he said, "You will put your big girl panties on and you will deal with this." And I was like, that night I had a rehearsal dinner I was going to for one of my girlfriends, and it was like that ugly cry that you can't stop crying, and someone looks at you and you're like, it was that cry. And I was pulled over on Rochester Road, if you're in the Metro Detroit area. And I was like, Sarah, sign me up. Like, I can't do this anymore. So she did. We ended up enrolling me, and I was terrified, you guys. I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to make this work. My husband at the time, he didn't tell me no, but he was just like, yeah, his words were, "You sell your creams and we'll see what happens." And I was like, wait a second. I'll show you what's going to happen. Because in the back of my mind, like, of course I didn't know, but I also, like, I really wanted this to be my way out. I didn't know the night that I enrolled, but I saw very early on, that this could have the potential to be my way out. And so he didn't stop me, but I also knew at the same time, like, we're getting ready to take a $90,000 pay cut, and I just dumped $700 on a business kit. And I thought, I better figure this out, or I need to return it in 60 days. That was what I had told him. And so I didn't know my head from my rear end, and I just put my head down and I signed up, and I was scared, and I was, all those things. But in the back of my mind, for a little backstory, I had been, waffling on this for 4 months, because Sarah and I talked in June. And so it was in October when I decided to actually join. So the way that I work is, if I'm going to do something scary, I need to find something to do with something scary with me. And so I was talking to all these people, trying to get them to come on board with me, not even knowing that was going to help me when I finally did do it. But the day that I enrolled, I enrolled on like the 20th of October. And I was able to onboard 2 new consultants in my 0 month. And then I enrolled 3 consultants in my month 1. So at the close of my month 1, I had 5 bodies. Okay. Of those bodies, 2 had quit like right off the bat. My 3rd body was Amanda Neese. For those of you that know who she is, she's my one of my Lexus drivers. And she was like my saving grace. I mean, the poor girl, I didn't know at that point, I was still trying to like find my ground, right? And we were just kind of chugging along, and she was just so go with the flow. She was kind of doing her own thing. I never had to worry about her. She just kind of did her own thing, and we figured it out together. She was like my strong, steady Eddie, right? And then I knew as soon as I got going, I was like, this is kind of like a chess game. I always treated this business like a chess game. And so first and foremost, at the 20th, I had always hit my goals by the 20th of the month. By the time we closed the 20th, after auto ships, I had hit that promotion, I had hit that goal, and I was on to the next. From the 20th or the 21st until the end of the month, either 28th or 30th, whatever, I was making my plan for what was going to happen the next month. So I basically started my new month on the 21st because I knew that if I was going to onboard someone, I needed to get them in right now so I could get them launched the next month, right? It was just a numbers game for me. And so I hit level 5 in 4 months. And I hit on the 20th of the month. Literally, auto ships rolled out. I had 12 bodies, though. I had 12 bodies. I hit level 5 with 9 EC legs, but 12 bodies, okay? And I was like sitting so good. Well, I somehow had earned a training call with Melissa McCarthy, who she's Miriam Steckety's direct or sponsored. And she had told me, she was like, well, girlfriend, I'm really happy that you hit level 5, but I got to tell you, like, 12 bodies is not going to sustain your level 5. I mean, I thought, I was like, you know, and she was like, 12 bodies is not going to cut it. Like, you need a buffer because these people are not going to be able to hang. And I was like, what? Like, I had no clue. And that literally scared the living piss out of me, that I went out the following month in April and I recruited 5 business partners because I was terrified I wasn't going to hit. And I'm an anxious person by trade. And so Sarah and I would have these like ledge talks, she would call them, that she'd have to like talk me off the ledge just because I was like, I need to find someone. And then as soon as I found someone, I was excited, but I was like, I don't know. I got to help make them successful. And so then in 9 months, I hit Lexus and Elite. So I had 12 EC legs, 3 level 5s, and I hit Lexus volume. Continued to close out Lexus, and I sat at Elite. That was month 9, and I sat at Elite until month 21 in my business, and that's when I hit RFX. I'm sorry, I hit Premier. I hit at month 6. So month 4, I hit level 5. Month 6, I hit Premier. And then month 9, I hit Lexus. Now, I will tell you a couple of things. Recruiting was always my main focus. I do not have a lot of preferred customers. I'll be very candid about that. I don't have like hundreds, but I do make it a point to take care of the ones that I have. I really try and take care of and show really good customer service to the ones I have, because I know that they beef up your paycheck, they beef up your PSPV, and they can like make a huge difference in your paycheck. And I learned that in the summer months when I was gearing up for Lexus, because that was the first time they had rolled out Lead the Way. And at that time, I was collecting all these points because I was onboarding at least 2 people a month, never anything less, sometimes more. And so I was collecting all these Lead the Way. We didn't have leadership miles, but we had the onboarding points. And when it came time to run for Lexus in July, they were closing out the Lead the Way program. And I needed 10 miles to get to mile 25. And mile 25 is when you got to walk the stage and got your convention paid for. And at that point, it took me a while. Apparently, I'm a slow learner, but that was the point where it taught me to, obviously continue to onboard, but also, I just needed to work on getting those people to replenish, because that was going to, beef up my paycheck at the same time. And so I started kind of utilizing the Lead the Way once I figured it out for myself from there on out. But in the very beginning, I I didn't know a lot about direct selling. And so in the very beginning, when I just started, trying to find these wing women to come on board with me, I was talking to a lot of people. But when I was talking to a lot of people, I didn't realize that I had to train them. Like I was like, I'm just gonna sign all these checks and I'm gonna collect all this money out of them. Essentially what I thought. And then I realized like, oh, I mean, not that I wasn't training them, but I just didn't really understand like how in depth you had to do it. And after my first two quit, I was like, okay, something's got to give here. So I took the training that Miriam had, and I at that time I was like I was really queuing in on some of the Sarah Robbins stuff, but none of it was like fitting for me. And so I took it and made it my own. I broke it down for me and I think that's the teacher in me that came out. I was like, okay, tagging all these random people and all these calls, like that was overwhelming to me. I got to figure something else that's going to be very simplified and streamlined. And that is when I really got into my zone of genius, if you will. And I would bring them on. I would train them hard for 60 days. And I will tell you, like, I have a much different onboarding, like, philosophy, if you will, than Sarah does. Sarah's literally like, and I love her to death, and she's an incredible sponsor, but we are very different. I don't want to say that I coddle, but I'm gonna like spoon feed you this stuff, and I'm gonna make you as strong as I possibly can, as knowledgeable as I possibly can, and fill you up with all of that goodness. Because come 60 days, I'm gonna like kick you out of the nest, and I'm not gonna disown you, but I'm gonna like, you're 18, see ya, kind of a thing. And I'm still there cheering you along, but you got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet, because I was bringing in 2 more people. I didn't have time to, come on, girl, you got to bring me a phone call or drag you to the finish line. I did not have time for that. The second thing I did, and I learned very early on, is I kind of used that onboarding period as like this interview period. So although, like, yes, they invested, they're kind of wanting me to help them, coach them to be successful. I was like, oh, no. My time is so precious, right? My time, and as yours, is so precious. So I'm going to get a feel for what kind of a person you're going to be right out of the gate. I can tell within 2 weeks whether or not someone is it. Okay. And if in that time, I mean, I'm going to give you the same amount of training, but I'm not going to drag you. If I'm like, hey, bring me some training calls. Your goal is to bring me 5 training calls by this date. If they don't do it, I remind them again. And then, okay, like, I'm not reminding you a third time. You're a grown woman. I can help guide you in this. I can help train you in this, but I cannot do it for you. And once I kind of took that burden off of my chest, and I just was like, I'm kind of like, I know I'm responsible for training you. And my goal, obviously, I want you to be that girl. But if not, I was like, okay, like, she ain't it. So I would launch them. I would make it a point to launch them and get them to goal the first month that I sign them in their 0 month. And then in their month 1 at the very latest. Well, then what would happen is I knew that they obviously had that grace, which was my buffer to be able to replace them. And I had them replaced by the time their grace was up. So that's why my numbers, my direct legs, never fell back. As soon as I saw them on a grace, they were replaced with a new business partner. And I have always, and I always coach this with my team, that you need to feed yourself first. You are the most important person in your business. And I always relate it back to, I don't know how many of you on here are mothers or have a mother, but if you think about it, like, if mama ain't happy, nobody's happy, right? Like, you've got to be the best version of yourself to be able to take care of all those other little tiny humans. Or your mom had to be the best version of herself to take care of all of you guys, to be able to move forward. And if it's fine and dandy, you want to work with some of your anchors in your org, that's great. But guess what? That anchor in your 4th generation that's driving all of that volume, she is not going to be the one to get you to Premier, because she's not your direct and she's not your 2nd gen. So you need to have, like, you need to go into it that you need the strongest front line possible. What does that mean? You want 8 direct Lexus drivers. That was always my goal. You need 8 direct Lexus drivers, because think about it. At the end of the day, 8 direct Lexus drivers, each one of them has $125,000 minimally in work volume. That's a lot of money, right? That's a lot of money. And I'm not there yet. So I'm just telling you, that's way more than a lot of money. That's too much money to even comprehend. And you know what, guys? Wendy Green said it best. I don't know if you had a chance to watch that daily experience with her a couple weeks ago, but and she said exactly what I did as well. You know, so many people get in, they get in, they get a business partner, they get going, and they want to like coddle and handhold and let me do this for you and let me do this for you, and you know, like bait the hook and, you know, throw the hook in the line and help them wheel it in. And it's like, no, you get them in. Here's the training. I schedule the calls. This is my business. So I'm like, even when I was working, I was like, I would get them in. I would talk to them on the phone and say, okay, let's schedule your next training calls. So we had them scheduled going forward, you know, till the training was done. And then it was like, we talk on those days, and I always talk to my newbies on the phone when I was talking to them. But I was smart about it. I was like, okay, maybe I can use the time in my car when I'm driving. Maybe I can put in my headset and do it while I'm talking, while I'm, you know, making dinner, or, you know, so that way I was kind of killing 2 birds with 1 stone at the same time. But I always got them on the phone, and I think that that's made a huge impact in my training, because you need to relate to them. You need to be able to talk to them, and text messaging or Facebook messaging is not it. But, you know, secondly, like I said, if you're feeding yourself first, you're not baiting their hook, and you're not doing the work for them. Like, you are not in control of what they do. And if you think about this in the general scheme of things, guys, they say about the level 5 leaders are the top 2% in the company. So 98% of the people in this company are average. 2% are going to, you know, going to be it, right? So that means you got to talk to a lot of average people before you find your people. And that's exactly what happened to me. So in February, so month 3 of my business, I signed my 2 power partners. One of them is Kristen Riss, and I signed her from a mommyhood group that actually Stacy Longo ran, if you know who Stacy is. Funny enough, I actually recruited Stacy Longo when she first started this mommyhood site, and she didn't want anything to do with it. And then she had this group that she had made, and was becoming more and more popular. Long story short, Kristen Riss had posted on there that she was unhappy about her job. I reached out to all these people because I got tagged in the group, and I had never met Kristen. Turns out that we're kind of connected through like the 6 degrees of separation. And I will tell you, the other person that signed within days of her was Lana Sadawa. And so Lana was a coworker of mine. She became a preferred customer at first, and then she ended up wanting to talk about the business. And so Lana signed on like a Friday. Kristen Riss she wouldn't get on the phone with me, but she saw that Lana signed, and she knew Lana through our 6 degrees of separation. So then she called me and signed on Sunday. So it was bananas. But my point being is that I found my 2 power partners, and my organization literally exploded. And I mean this in the least, I don't mean this in any sort of disrespect, but they were bringing on people so quickly in my 2nd generation, I could not keep track of who was who, because it was growing every day. And at first, was it a little overwhelming? Yes. They were both asking me a ton of questions, and I was, you know, onboarding these 2 people, but they both got it really quick. And then they flew the nest within like 2.5, 3 weeks. I mean, they just got it. So if you I remember people used to say to me, I don't know why I'm using this analogy, but I remember when people used to say to me, I'd say, well, I don't know. How am I going to know? Like when I go into labor, they're like, oh, you're going to know. Like you're going to know when you find your power partner. So you're not going to like, I think this is it. No, you're going to know. It is the same thing. You are going to know. Your org is going to explode so quickly. And so if you have not found that person, because for me, finding 2 in month 3 of this business, or 4, I'm sorry, is so rare. It is so rare. Usually people find them in their more of their organization than direct to them. So if you have not found them, do not feel discouraged. That is not common that I found 2 so early on. But that being said, I turned this opportunity over to a lot of people. And when I tell people that, like, I sent a lot of messages. And I'm going to be very honest with you, I was very unhappy in my job and I really wanted out. So yes, I went really fast. And I tell people that's not normal, but I didn't work at a normal pace either. And I worked this business tirelessly. Like I literally probably sent out 20 new reach outs a day, 20 follow-ups a day. And I had on average of 5 to 6 three-way calls a week when I was building my business. So I've always been someone that I never have a happy medium. I'm either like on the paleo diet or I'm on the Burger King diet. I have no like middle ground, and I had no middle ground with this business, but I got a taste of success and I ran with it. But the reason that I had the fast success is not by luck. I mean, yes, it's luck that I found my 2 power partners when I did, but I did the work. And so if you're not seeing the results and you're not satisfied with the results that you're seeing, then you need to turn this over to more people. It's very simple. It's a numbers game and you're not talking to enough people. The other thing that I did is kind of goes back to baiting the hook is that when I was growing my business really quickly, I didn't have a team page. I had a messenger thread. I actually didn't have a team page until I was in my first month of qualifying for Alexis. So I was 9 months into my business. Now, I don't necessarily think that's normal, but I coach my team now to not start a team page until you're actually in level 5 circle quals. Because that's when you're kind of making like a little mini Lexus run. But because I know for a fact that is 1000% where people get hung up in this business is because they start managing a team page as a level 1. Well, you don't need a team page as a level 1. You don't need a team page really with 8 directs. You can communicate a whole heck of a lot easier in a thread than you can on a page. And it not only that, but like, I mean, Sarah and I kind of signed together, but I was utilizing everything that Miriam had available to me. I was working a full-time job. My primary concern was onboarding. So why would I reinvent the wheel and create all these posts and these contests? I also never did contests until I was in my first month of Lexus. If I did anything, it was very strategic. It was for my directs. And so if I would look and I would say, okay, I am at, and I didn't really have an issue, but I'm just giving you this as an example as to what I coach now. If you're a level 5 and you close on the 20th at 6 legs, you're not rolling out a whole contest to all 24 directs. Those 6 that hit, you take them out of the equation. Love them dearly, but they're doing their job with or without you, right? You're looking at the other people that have not hit. Or you're looking not even at the other people, you're looking at you need 2 more. So you're going to look at those other stream of people and who's got it, who's potentially got it to be able to get there for you, right? Because you need to hit level 5. So you need 2 more bodies. You know, Susie that hasn't put in an order since August is not it. Like I would not be incenting her. You want to look at the people that are, the closest and incent them. So I was very, very, very strategic about my incentives. If anything, I took money and I invested it back into my business. I invested it into Hey, I've got this free regimen. Hey, I've got this lash, beautiful, whatever, Bright Eye Complex, package. And if you join me in business, I'll give you this. Or I just use cash off kits. That works like a charm. And I'll say, after you hit your 60 days, I will give you the cash, the rebate on your check. Plain and simple. And so I put that money into myself, hence why I was always, feeding myself first. And no, I think that's pretty much my tricks. Is there anything else, Megan, that you wanted me to hit on that?
There's something that I wanted to say, that when I first joined you guys, and I remember picking Sarah's brain about Leslie. And Leslie, I don't even think you know this, but I was like, okay, well, what's Leslie doing, or how did Leslie do it? At the beginning, I asked Sarah, and she was like, Leslie was always kind of like you already said, Leslie. She goes, Leslie was always in November already thinking about December. Like, she already knew who was joining her in December when we were in November. And so that stuck with me. Like, Sarah told me that from the beginning, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do too. So it's like just knowing, having your funnel so full. And you guys, how do you have your funnel full? By talking to people and more people and more people and more people. And that's why, we talk about recruiting a lot, because that's really where you're going to potentially make, the kind of income that you guys want to make, is by building a team. So, but being ahead of yourself and knowing already, what you're going to be doing next month when you're in this month is huge. And that just always stuck with me, that Leslie did that. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm competitive. I'm going to do that too.
And I still do that. I do that at the RFX level too. The other thing I would really encourage is, I have found power partners, like, and I don't remember who said this to me, but, Sarah and I, we kind of, our journey was very parallel. It kind of, I rode her coattails, and I had always said, like, I am going to Napa with you. You are not going on a trip without me. Like, I prided myself on the fact that I was going to follow, jump on her coattails, even though it started 4 months behind. But I found my power partner, and she's my power partner, but, we're tied to each other in word volume, right? So, like, if you have that direct, that's really, powerful, and, you guys communicate a lot, that's great. I'm not telling you not to have that, but you need to find someone outside that's not connected to your organization. And our team is wonderful. Don't get me wrong. Like, our team is great. Showsteppers has a wide variety of people. And I know, like, a lot of the girls on my team are, a lot, really tied with a lot of Sarah's other directs, like Megan and all that. And that's fine and dandy too. But I wanted to get almost like out of that circle to get fresh ideas. And what I realized is it's kind of like this dating, right? Because I had talked to people before, and I felt like I was like coaching them, and that's not worth my time, right? Like, you want to find that person that you have that equal partnership with, that's bringing new ideas to the table, and you're like, oh, that's really good, I'm going to use that. You can kind of share things and this, that, and the other, but, find someone that you don't know that, maybe has, like, I always talk about Kristen DeZino, and our organizational volume, we have the same structure, but our organizational volumes are substantially different. But she has my same personality. She's a worker bee. She's always on, like, she's always thinking, we complement each other really well. And same thing with Jessie. We work really well together. I actually kind of crashed their little party, but we jive very well together because of the fact that of our personalities, not necessarily our business structure or org volume. Like, don't necessarily look at that. Structure, yes, but org volume, no. Find someone that's got those same personality qualities as you do, and that you can kind of bounce ideas off of, and it works. And if it's not working, then don't be married to that person. But that's really helped me, in finding someone as well. I use them for closing calls. I'm using Megan for a closing call. So like just utilize those resources. But I definitely still play that game of, and that's me. Like I think that's part of I'm a very anxious person, and I constantly, I'm always, they say someone who's anxious is always worrying about what's ahead, right? And that, so it's worked for me in this business, and I take that mentality and I go forward, and like around the 25th, I'm like plotting out what events I'm going to have for my next month, what virtual events I'm going to have, what kind of contests I'm going to have, who my call is going to be with, because I do a 1500 by the 15th. And who's going to lead that call for me. And I'm like kind of getting those ducks in a row by the 25th. So then that way I can post on my team page, like, yo, this, because I have a lot of really big leaders on my team. So I don't want to take away from them, but I always say, like, here's what I'm doing. You want to kind of encompass this in, that's great. If you don't, then this is for the people that don't have those leaders, but I just kind of put it out there so people know ahead of time. And then I go back to worrying about my own business. So, does anybody else have any questions for me though, or anything, Megan, that you can think of that you want me to get on? Anything else?
No, that was awesome. If you guys have questions, yeah, feel free.
I will tell you, after I hit RFX, so I hit Circle after I hit Circle in July. I had my daughter June 25th. I stood up at my sister's wedding June 20th, and I moved June 13th. And I finished up my school year, my last school year working. And so I got done with Circle, and I was like, whew, I'm tired. And I had a newborn at that time. So I took a little bit of time off. I kind of stopped recruiting. And I kind of fell into this, like I had left my job, and so I was working this, full time, but I kind of fell into this, like, I don't know where I fall now. Like I had to find my new normal kind of a thing. And when I let my foot off the gas in recruiting, it affected my business crazy. My directs, because I stopped recruiting, then my front line stopped recruiting. My front line stopped recruiting, then it just trickled down, and my org volume stalled. My org volume stalled for a year and a half. And that was when Sarah and I kind of rifted, because she had this, she's these other legs that were hitting Lexus and that were, just skyrocketing. And I was always like, I would say I was like literally all but $5,000 of her volume, like no joke, until we got to that point. I literally I kind of stalled. And so I will tell you that if your team will do half of what you do. So if you take your foot off of the gas and stop recruiting, there is no doubt in my mind, 1000%, they will take their foot off the gas too, and they will not do it. And secondly, if your business is not growing at the pace that it is, like if your directs aren't, bringing on people, it's because you as the leader are not setting the tone to recruit. But also, so after that happened, and I stalled, I was so frustrated. I was doing everything in my power to make it grow without recruiting, because I was like, I'm tired. I don't want to recruit. I had brought on 70 people, and I have a pretty good retention rate, and I was maintaining RFX, but I wanted my org volume to grow. And so I was running trainings, and I just was like, I told Sarah, I was like throwing darts at the wall almost. Like it was like, just the blind leading the blind. I said, I feel like I'm like just spinning my wheels in mud. And I kind of took a step back just this fall. End of the summer, beginning, and I was like, you know what? Because I was trying to like revive these fives that had gotten to 5 and fell back to 1, or even a level 3. And I'm like, they weren't it. Like they didn't want what I wanted. They didn't want to get back. I have a level 1, you guys, sitting on Lexus volume. She's a level 1, and she's got one EC leg that's a Lexus driver underneath her. I mean, I cannot revive that. But So when I stopped, like I kind of like took that burden off of me and I just went back to the drawing board, it always goes back to recruiting. Anything in your business is not going the way you want it, it's because you're not recruiting enough. You're not recruiting enough, or you're not recruiting the right people. So that's my biggest takeaway. Like I'm saying it because I did it. Like I made the mistakes and I was micromanaging and I was, doing everything in my power to make things happen with a steady org, but without, I was doing everything in my power to do that, but without, recruit myself, and it does not happen. So don't ever lose sight of that. But do you guys have any questions for me?
Really, guys? Nothing? Les, have you ever, because I know you don't have a lot of PCs. Have you ever, how many of your business partners were PCs first? Did you have quite a few that like switched over, they PCs to now business partners, or no?
A handful, not too many. I have to look. More so like in the beginning, but a lot of them have kind of like fallen off now. I was so much, and it's still to this day is a lot easier for, like Sarah's strong suit was always recruiting people that she had this really strong relationship with, like you and me, and that she had like a genuine like friendship with. For some reason, it was much easier for me to find that person that I didn't necessarily know very well. And so it was part of my recruiting style. Like I always say, like Sarah's, she's the warm and fuzzy. Hi, how are you? She wants to like make small talk, and she hasn't seen you in 10 years, but she wants to make small talk, and that's what makes her feel comfortable. And that's just not my personality. So I would just be like, hey, I hope you're well. I've been following on Facebook. Listen, I've got this opportunity, and I'm a straight shooter. I go right into it. Like if I'm gonna blow fluff up your rear end, that's not me. So even if you knew me 10 years ago, I didn't do that. So it was easier for me to, a lot of the people that I recruited were people that I didn't necessarily have like crazy strong relationships with. And that was a lot easier for me because when I trained them and I got them on the phone, we developed our business relationship, which is another reason why you don't message when you train.
Right. No, and the reason I ask is that I know like some, people we can't forget about our PCs, obviously, right? Like I've ordered a couple times, whatever, but I'm similar to you, Leslie, where, I have, I think only one, maybe two, well, she quit, but two that actually were PCs first. And I think it's because, myself, and you guys know this, like I train you guys that you start with business. And if they're like, no, I'm going to get product, I'm like, you're dumb. Don't do that, because I did that for a year, spent a lot of money doing that. You just need to sign up into the business. But I'm very direct like that.
I am too.
Don't have a lot that, like switched over. But I know some of you on this call right now, and I know your personalities, that you're not as direct and bold as me. So don't forget to go back to those PCs that signed and you were like, okay, you told me you wanted to try the product. It's time to sign in this business now. Let's go.
Well, and here's my philosophy about that, because I actually have a second gen that she was a PC queen. Her name's Nicole Mancha. She was a PC queen. She was always at the top of my leaderboards with PSTV and Lead the Way and, PCs. Like she had a ton. And, she won a coaching call with Sarah LeBlanc. And she said, Sarah said to her, like, it's fine and dandy to have that great PSTV because, yes, you make more commission off of products than you do a business partner kit. Right? I totally get that. But at the end of the day, that's not what builds residual income. Residual income is building business partners. And, I always think about it like this. It's all on you. If you have that base of PCs and, God forbid, like the economy tanks or what have you, right? Like, I'm just using that as an example, but like people, they're going to cut out those extras, right? And that's product. And that's what you're relying on, and that's all that you have, and you don't have that buffer of business partners, that's a lot of pressure on yourself. And you're a one-man show. That's a lot of pressure to me. And my philosophy when I was recruiting was, my first goal was like, how can I get to 600 as quickly as possible? And I knew that 6 CRPs was going to get me to 600, and I didn't have to stress. So that's what I was constantly trying to do. Was like, okay, I gotta just if I can get one person CRP, that's at least, I only got to do 500 now out of, the rest of it. And then, but on top of that, so Nicole just took her really solid PC base, because people that are PCs, they love and respect the product. They probably have a network that love and respects the product, and they know how prestigious this company is. And so I am like, you don't have to be, rude, but you can just be like, okay, so I just got to throw this out there. I totally respect if you want to continue being my PC, but do you realize that you've tally up how much they've spent for the year? $1,000, $800 on products. Like, you could be getting a discount and be making some very serious income, and I think you'd be great. If you're not interested in this, like, you are not, I would say, you're not going to hurt my feelings. I owe it to you to at least ask you that, to think about it. See what they say. Worst thing they're going to say is, nope, I'm happy being a preferred customer, and then you keep them on, because I don't do that face washer stuff. I don't put people on for, face washers. You're either on because you said you want to build, or you're a preferred customer, because quite frankly, I can make more off of you as a preferred customer.
Yeah. And Nicole did that, you guys, and she was like a level 1. I was at this breakfast thing that Nicole won. It was me and Sarah or whatever, and when she was a level,
that was in February. She was a level 3. So she had hit level 3. She signed last fall. No, she signed in the spring. And then literally the day before convention, she is like what really helped Amanda get through her Lexus run, because she's direct to Amanda Means, and her team just exploded. She hit level 3, and then the day before convention, she was in a very, very, very terrible car accident and almost lost her life. She broke both of her arms, and she was in the hospital. She's actually still, to this date, she's still out of work for it. And she's had to have multiple surgeries. She's a nurse. And so she got to level 3. She kind of hung on because she went on disability or something within the hospital. And her husband's a firefighter. I mean, this was it. And so she worked that. She had like a sling on, a hard cast and a sling. And she literally like sat like this doing her messages, to be able to build her team. And she went from a 3 to a 5 in maybe a month and a half, and she went right into level 5 circle. And she has had,
it was her PC switchovers. That's what
she went back to all of her PCs. Yep. And so then she hit level 5 circle, and she was kind of doing like, for those of you that haven't been through level 5 circle, it's kind of like a mini Lexus run, if you will. And she kind of got focused on Lexus, and I had just told her, I said, that you just got to get back to sponsoring. Like, you got to go back. She signed 3 business partners last month, and she's signing 1 on Friday, like the girls on the sheet, and they're all of her PCs. She just kind of keeps pulling from that, network. Mm-hmm. So, and if not, they don't want to sign, then find really smart ways to tap into their networks. Like, be really specific about that. So say to them, go to that PC and be like, if they're like, no, I'm good, I want to stay as a PC, then say, okay, then can I ask you this? If I give you 5 mini facials, will you give them to and connect me with 5 of your, closest girlfriends at work. You need to give them some sort of a call to action. So like tell them that you like think about people. Don't just say, can you think of 5 people that would be great for this? It's too open-ended. You just say, think of your 5, closest girlfriends at work that would be really good for this. And the reason is like, that's 5 new people in your network that, even if 3 of them order, we know what happens when they order. They fall in love. A lot of times they do transfer over to the business. So, you're just use those PCs if they're not going to join you to leverage your business, because that's the best thing you can do for it. Always take it back to
I have a question. You were saying, especially at first, you were doing about 3 to 5 3-way calls a week. So would those be all like, would they be at different like times? Like, would those all be just like, okay, they're just new, you just started talking about the business, or welcome calls?
kind of cut out. Did you cut out?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
What did you hear?
You want to know what kind of 3-way calls she was doing when she was doing 5 calls a week?
Right. So were they all like the regular, like, you've talked a little
Closing
bit
calls.
about the business, but now they're really interested, so you're getting on the phone? Or were those also some like, oh, they've already
Those
signed?
were my personal.
Oh,
They were my personal closing calls.
okay.
My personal closing calls. Not all of them panned out, but I was doing. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but I have this vivid memory of me sitting. It was warm out. I was sitting in my garage drinking beer, and I was literally. I would do calls. So it must have been summertime, and I was off. But I would do calls from 7:30 to 10:30, half-hour blocks, almost every single night. Boom, boom, boom. I mean, it was insane because I was growing and my team was growing. Some of them were for me, some of them were for them. But I have a very distinct. That was what I was going to tell you. I don't know how many of you were on. How many of you are any of you in here on that Climb to Summit? Okay, so I gave like really distinct language about getting them through the funnel. And I think that's one of my sweet spots is that, again, this is like, I'm not saying this is the only way, but this is like what I have done and I know for a fact it works. So I reach out to them. As soon as I can get someone to say that they want to get on the phone, I stop all communication through texting. I don't message, text, anything, and I give them 2 choices to talk. The key is that you want to keep the ball in your court at all times. So that's the control freak in me. So I'm like, great, I would love to chat with you. Can you chat at this time or this time? I always give 2 options, okay? We get on the phone. I did the initial call, so I would share my story, the 5 Ps, and I always close like this. I say, okay, so I know I gave you a ton of information. Do you have any questions for me? I give them a chance to answer 2 questions. And then I say, I'll tell you what, I keep it very casual. I'll be like, I know I just gave you a lot of information, and if you're anything like me, you probably need to think about it, look it over. So I have an email that kind of goes over everything that we just talked about. Why don't you look at it and make a list of questions, and we can reconnect in a couple of days. Let's go through those questions. And so I make them think that we're just going to go through your questions in a few days. But I know in my mind that I'm not going to go through I am going to go through their questions, but my goal is to sign them on that next call. So I don't tell them I'm bringing them on a 3-way. I don't tell them, any of that. So I get off the phone. We schedule that next call. And that next call is always between 48 and 72 hours. I never go any earlier than 48 hours because I feel like that's too soon. I would not be able to have it took me 4 months. I would not be able to have a decision down in 48 hours or less than 48 hours. And so anything after 72 and they go missing. They get scared, they get cold feet, this, that, and the other. So I get them back on the phone. I send the email, and then I text them or whatever, and I'll say, Susie, it was so great chatting with you. Thanks so much for having a call. I just want to let you know that I sent you over the email, so if you did not receive it, please let me know. So that kind of flags them to check. And I'll say, I'm looking forward to connecting with you Thursday at 9:30. And I just, I let people know that, like, yes, I am doing this as a side business, but this is a business. And I've never, like those people that say that they fit into the nooks and crannies of their life, I didn't. That's not how I roll. Like, this was, even though this was always so very important to me. And so I always made it seem very professional to people, that I was not like sneaking it in to my day. So I was scheduling you. And then when I called them in 48 hours and I got them on the phone, I always confirmed the morning, whenever ahead. So if we were talking at 10:30, I was going to confirm with them at like 8:30 in the morning. And then I would always shoot whoever was doing the 3-way call and say, okay, this is, this is Kristen. She's a teacher. I don't know her very well, but she's, really struggling with the work-life balance. But I think her concern is going to be that she's really shy and this, that, and the other. And so I'd kind of like fill them in, get on the call, and I wouldn't tell them, right? So I'd say, oh, hey, Kristen, how are you? Good. Hey, I actually have my girlfriend on the other line. She is a teacher as well, and she offered to hop on the phone with us and share her perspective on the business. And then you can kind of see how we work this together. I'm going to go ahead and connect us, okay? I never ask. I just do it. And when I connect them, I loop them in, I go mute, and then that person closes the call. And it works like a charm. I mean, again, not everyone signs, but I had pretty strong closing rates. And I think that, I just kind of kept my finger on those people that told me no. I moved them over, because a lot of people think that once they tell you no after that closing call, a lot of people get hung up on that they're still in their funnel. No, they're not really still in your funnel. I kind of like slid them over to my B list, and I would check back up on them. But I wasn't annoying, I don't think. I mean, none of them said I was annoying. Then I moved on to fresh new blood, right? Like I found new people because they weren't ready, and I wasn't. It took me 4 months, so I respected that, but I never forgot about them. So it always works.
Hey,
To
Leslie.
this day, it still works. What's that?
Oh, I was gonna follow up with that question. So I've had some people that have been like, oh, not right now. So, and I know, like, I watched convention virtually, and I forget who it was, asked, like, who said yes on the first time, their sponsor asked them to join this business. I'm like, no one raised their hand. She's like, exactly. So we all take a long time. So what was kind of like Sarah's whoever you signed with, what was their follow-up with you? And then, like, how long did that, like, what was that process like? Because it took you 4 months. It took me a month. So I'm just trying to, like, work on, like, my follow-up with people when they initially tell me no.
That's a really good question. So I am a big proponent of, and I think Heather Nia Norris I think she did I know for a fact she did one for a summer sizzle series. So if you looked in Showstoppers, she did a training call on this, and I think she did a daily experience on it as well. But she talks about being socially aware. She puts on this hat. It's hysterical. And it says, like, she's got this socially aware hat. And she says, if you ask, I like to put it like this. If I reached out to Megan and I said, hey, Megan, I'm going to yoga tomorrow night. Do you want to come with me? And she's like, oh, man, I would love to, but I can't because I got to take the kids this, here or there. Well, Megan's not saying no to me. It just doesn't work for her at the time. And so that doesn't mean I'm never going to ask Megan to hang out with me again. It means that I'm going, I'm got to just wear my socially aware hat. Now, if I came back to her like that night, I'm like, are you sure you don't want to go to Megan? Are you sure you don't want to go to yoga with us? And then asked her like 5 times, within the next 24 hours. That's when it gets a little overwhelming. But okay, so maybe I back off for a couple of days and I'm like, hey, just thinking about you, hope you're doing well, just kind of check in with her. And then I'm like, hey, I'm doing this kickboxing class. Do you want to go with me? She's like, oh, sure, I'd love to. Or she's like, oh my gosh, I can't do it again. Please don't, stop thinking about me, but try me this time. She's not telling you necessarily no. And that's a lot of what this business is. They're not telling you no, especially the ones that are saying not right now, and so you just got to be, my point is that there's no Bible to tell you like how exactly when. I just kind of always kept my pulse on them. Like I always, I don't know if you know how to do this, but you can go into Facebook from the computer and you can create groups. And so I have like a prospect group. And so they come out of my newsfeed and I put all of my prospects in a group. So I lay in bed and I click like and I comment on a picture because all my prospects are in one group. And then all of my directs are in another group. So I go on my directs and I, comment on them. So then they know that I'm seeing their activity. And then all those people, they're not necessarily that clears up my news feed as well. So because when you have new people coming into your news feed, you're getting new blood. They're seeing your stuff as well. If you're seeing them, then they're seeing what you're posting as well. And so, that's really important to make sure that you're doing that. And so that's kind of how I kept every time I had an event come up though, I always re-invited. Always. I'd find a way for an event, whether it was virtual, product, live, what have you, I was inviting to the event. Those are key. And I think also, I talked about this on the Climb to Summit too, that's where I think as well, I always tell my team, we're a virtual business, and I was a big proponent of, I was not going to do parties. And so I learned very early on that I had to master my virtual brand. I had to master my brand and figure out who I was and who I was going for in this business, because it's a huge part of it, right? We don't realize that. Can you only use, social media to recruit? No, you need to get out and talk to people. However, what are you going to do when you meet that person out in real life? You're going to connect on Facebook, and they're going to continue to watch you through your brand. And so all those people that told you no, one more lifestyle post is probably going to be what pushes them over the edge. So that's why it's so important to make sure that your brand is top notch, stellar. And to this day, I am a stickler. At the beginning of the month or the end of the month, I go on my month at a glance and I write out I always do it a 7-day block. I have Tuesdays are transformation Tuesdays, or Thursdays are business posts, and Sundays are lifestyle posts. And I know that I have my variety sprinkled in, and I never vary from that. I'm always, I never vary, because I'm hoping that, a lot of people get away from those lifestyle posts when they don't keep track of it. And those are the ones that really get people, especially those people that tell you no at first. That's what did it for me.
I have another question.
Sure.
So this is something we were talking about at the retreat, or I brought up. I a lot of times have a lot of people interested in the business, and then a lot of them never sign. And I'm thinking, I've been in the business now for over 2 years, that I'm telling too much. I think I was thinking about myself personally, and I wanted to know everything. I think I asked 2 million questions before I joined. So should you mainly kind of just answer what you feel like you need to from what they're saying, and then whatever they don't ask, kind of just, I guess I'm just a very honest person, and I have a hard time, I don't want people to think I'm keeping things from them, and then when they join and then they're like, oh, why didn't you tell me this and this? You know what I mean? So that's where I feel like I struggle with not telling them enough or too much.
Well, here's what I've learned. I've learned that your initial call can totally are you having trouble getting people on to the second call? Or getting them onto the second call?
So, I mean, that's the other problem. I'm not having enough calls either. A lot of times I'll reach out to someone, mainly through, a message, and they'll come back and, be interested. I don't want to say I never get on the phone. I do. But a lot of times after that initial call, we talk a little bit about everything, and then they're like, I need time to think about it. And then after that, that's where
I 1000% will tell you that if you tweak that and you get, I am willing to bet my life on it. If you make that tweak to what I said, meaning stop the communication, get them on the initial call, set up the closing call, you will have way more. You will be bringing people through the funnel at a much faster rate. Not everyone's going to sign right away still, but you're gonna see a huge difference. I just did a blitz tonight with my team before this, and another PC queen said, she goes, I said I wasn't really communicating them through the phone. She goes, but then I just switched and I started getting them on the phone, and I realized how much I really was communicating through text. I was hiding behind text and messenger. She signed 3 people last month when she made that change. So 1000%, the first thing is get them on the phone. Because not only is that slowing your pace down, but it's duplicating really bad habits for your team. That is not a duplicatable system that's going to be able to be put in place and have success and success that you can stand on, right? Like, it's not duplicatable because it doesn't work. And secondly, I have found that through my coaching that a lot of what I find people can't get to the second call is because maybe there's something that they're saying in that first call, that 5 Ps, that needs just something small. Like I was having a lot of girls and they were like, I can't get anyone to the next call. Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm losing them. And I said, okay. I said, let's hop on a call. And so we'd hop on a call, my direct and I'd say, okay, I want you to share your story and your 5 Ps. And then I'm going to, give you a little bit of feedback, and then you share your story and the 5 Ps. Or I'm going to do it for you. And so I would listen to what they were saying. And you know what? They weren't saying the wrong information. They had the information down. It was choppy. It was wordy. It didn't flow. It was too long. It was full of jargon. And I said, like, you would totally lose me if I was a prospect. And so it might just need to be a little bit of fine tuning on that first call with your story and that first call. Once you get that like finessed, it's like smooth sailing. So I would really encourage you to do that, because I guarantee you that it'll make a huge difference, in the rate in which you bring people on, or even your directs as well. Like I encourage all of you guys to reach out to your sponsor and do that. And from a sponsor standpoint, whoa, it was eye-opening. So
I have a question. Yeah. It has nothing to do with recruiting, but I'm just kind of wondering, like, what the average customer base is, the PC base is for your directs. Like, what's normal?
Like how many PCs they have?
Yeah, because I feel like I'm managing a lot of accounts these days.
Me too, and I'm really sucking at it lately. Like, I struggle with the ones that compress me.
Oh, sorry, Les. I was just going to say a huge tip that I did that has completely changed my life, and I try to duplicate this down. I called corporate, and all of my PCs are moved to the 10th and the 20th, and that's it. It's phenomenal.
And they don't squawk when you do that?
I mean, I was on the phone with the lady for 40 minutes or 30 minutes and just doing this.
Going through everybody's accounts?
Went through literally everyone's, and she switched them all for me to the 10th or the 20th.
Okay. Because that's where I'm like, every day I'm like, oh my gosh, there's 2 new people, or 3 new people, or, and I thought that when I signed up, I thought that all the auto ships were on the 20th, but it seems like it's kind of based on when they sign up and not necessarily.
So whatever date that they signed up to be a PC on, if it was the 7th of the month, they replenish on the 7th. If it's the 15th, they replenish on the 15th, unless it's the 20th or after. Anyone that signed up to be a PC on the 20th through the end of the month will always replenish on the 20th.
Okay.
But what I do is I go into, I can show you. I have it somewhere. At the beginning of the month, I go in, I can't do it until the first day, but I go into the CRP, I go into the performance tab, and then I go into auto ship PC perks.
And then sort.
I go into high or view filter more options. And for the status, I click pending. And then for the level, I do 0 to 1. The 0, anything on your level 0 is yours, and anything on your level 1 is a roll up. So I have a lot of people that have directs that have quit that their PCs have compressed to me, and then I print it. And I manually cross it off, and that's how I keep track of it.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that.
Because I'm just old school paper and pencil, yeah. But I still, my thing is like today I put little dots. I reached out to 2 of them, and I'm like, I sent them the text, but they haven't responded, and then that's when it gets fishy for me. So
exactly.
I'm not the best. I'm not the best to answer this question.
Thank you.
No problem.
Another suggestion, I don't print it out. I'm all on my phone. So I type out their names on my notes. And every month I'll put who's on the 10th and who's on the 20th. And then once I actually update their account, I put a little check mark next to it. So they don't get a check mark until I've actually updated their account. Because we all have those PCs, right? That you reach out to 3 times and they still don't answer you. And then all of a sudden, whoops, their order shipped.
Right.
Yeah. But it's nice.
I do say I've gotten a little bit stricter in that. If they're not if I enrolled them as a PC 6 months ago and they still haven't replenished, I'm like, listen, you can either control your own account, or I'm going to pass the reins over to you, or you can terminate, because I'm not doing this anymore. And because I don't have time to control those accounts. They have an order, they're not going to order. And those are usually the ones that end up accidentally slipping through the cracks and running, and then I have to do damage control.
Right.
So.
Right. Awesome. Thank you, Leslie. You are amazing. Unless anybody else has any other questions, we can let Leslie. She wakes up at what, 5 a.m. to work out? Crazy.
4:30.
Oh my God. Yeah, can't do that. So
I'll be there by 5, and I already texted him that I was going, so I gotta show up.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, thank you guys so much for being on, and for congrats on obviously earning this. And Leslie, thank you so much for all of your insight. Somebody talking? Was there a question? Okay, I thought I heard some background noise. But thank you, Leslie, so much. I know your time is so precious. You have a huge, huge team. So to take an hour and 15 minutes to be with mine, I can't thank you enough. So I love you, and
I love you too. Thank you for having me. It was so nice to hang with you guys tonight.
Yes. So thank you.
No problem. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Les.
Bye.